Hi everyone. Today we will be looking at the official data from CDC about influenza deaths in the US during the period of 2009 to 2017. We will be using this data to prepare for the upcoming flu season in the US. As you all know, influenza is highly contagious and respiratory illness caused by virus. Influenza A and B viruses are responsible for each year influenza flu epidemic in the US. Mostly elderly population from elderly homes, children younger than 5 years, individuals with chronic conditions and pregnant women are most prone to suffer severely. So all these categories are categorized by highly risk and vulnerable to the influenza flu. Usually unhygienic habits and untimely response of the irresponsible community gives a rise to increased infection rate and spreading of influenza flu. As according to the CDC reports, nearly 10% of US population gets sick from the influenza each year. Among them, millions get died from hospitalization after severe complication. This escalating number of influenza hospitalization mainly stresses the healthcare staff. So the medical agency usually provide the additional staff for needed by us all across the US to fulfill the staff requirement. So the main purpose of this analysis is to identify when is the period influenza peak and where and how much need to allocate the medical staff additionally in each state in the US. So I would like to initiate my important question, actually who is endangered from the influenza flu. Even though I have mentioned few subcategories in the vulnerable group, we are only considering age group 85 and above for this analysis. This is due to data availability, and this age category is the major group impact on the healthcare system due to severity. So you can see in the left side of the screen the map which is showing the death count of the each state and population distribute of vulnerable age category. The two separate legends with blue color and red color, five color steps indicate the death count and population. As you can see, the states California, New York, Texas and Florida have the largest number of casualties due to flu. These states are also happen to have the largest vulnerable population. So the next, from the pie chart in the right side, you can see the variation in death counts of vulnerable and non-vulnerable each year and each state. So there you can find the death count of the vulnerable is higher always for every state. The state with the highest vulnerable population density, the highest mortality counts. This implies that people who are in closer contact with each other in the vulnerable category are more susceptible for infected with the flu. Now we can see how the impact correlate between the vulnerable and non-vulnerable. So the next few graphs emphasize the correlation between death and population of separate categories. The bar charts on the left shows the comparison of death and population of each. All the states show up with the same pattern of proportions for population and deaths for the separate category. As you can see in the population versus death graph on the right side, the data points are more closely placed around the trend line showing more strong positive correlation. That implies the population increases, so do the total death for the vulnerable age group. Also, during the study, the statistic showed that 8 out of the 10 from the flu-related deaths are among this group. So our next question is, when and where is the influenza flu take place? Depending on each state, the seasons of the influenza flu is vary. Usually, it starts in the winter months and ends up in the spring months. According to the graph below, about total influenza deaths, we can see the flu cases are actively showing up from October to February, where the peak is in December. In the map in the right side, we can see the count of deaths by states. They are the California, New York, Texas, and Pennsylvania and Florida are the states which we can identify as prominent 5 states that have been badly hit by influenza each year and overall seasonal flu duration. So this indicates the period of additional staff required for each mentioned state. Now I would like to pay your attention to the future and forecast from the analysis. Based on the analysis of the past, we can simply prioritize the states into 5 zones from the highest to lowest according to the mortality count. So, as you can see in the legend, initial one is red zone, which is severe risk with mortality rate count between 10,000 or about 10,000. And then red orange zone is high risk and mortality count between 10,000 to 5,000. Next, the yellow zone is elevated risk and the mortality count of between 5,000 to 1,000. And then green zone is low risk and with low mortality count of 1,000 to 1. And finally, the blue zone is no risk with 0 mortalities. So, I would say the agency can deploy the staff according to the zones. The red zone has the highest priority and highest proportion of the staff allocation, and respectively orange, yellow, and green with the lowering the priorities and lower proportions. In conclusion, the seasonal flu is associated with many hospitalization of mentioned vulnerable age group with severe complications. Therefore, additional staff is required corresponding to the need by us to handle the emergency. Therefore, the proactive plan of the coming epidemic by the medical agency very important and can be finalized as below. During the period of November to February, the flu season is more likely to peak and spread highly. Highly populated states are more prone to hit by the highest mortality rates. Where the vulnerable population is high, the mortality rate is high. In the US, the mentioned vulnerable population is a significant amount from the total population. Therefore, the life of each under this category matters. So, therefore, according to the zonal basis forecast in the analysis, red zone, then the orange, yellow, and finally green zone can be prioritized during the staff allocation. As a wrap up, for the further effectiveness of the project, more analysis need to be carried out, such as analysis of the data from the customer satisfaction feedback. Also, the accuracy and sustainability of the project can be improved by keeping monitoring always and updating the data. For that, you can introduce an automated online platform to healthcare system stakeholders so that the direct database can be updated automatically. Also, very important point is prevention can be promoted. Therefore, more awareness campaign for sharing knowledge and encouraging community for flu vaccine is very important. Finally, I would like to mention the data limitation during this analysis. The death-related values are estimated values from the primary source of data from the CDC. They are not the exact values from death values. During the analysis, only vulnerable category is considered as age 85 years and above population. But this need to be added more other sub 5 categories as I mentioned in the introduction part. So after that only we can calculate the analysis. We can actually done the analysis with more accurate. The census data is collected only after every 10 years. So the census data can be consist of uncounted population data. Therefore, this also impact on the analysis. So I would say for further, you have to analyze more stakeholder feedback. Therefore, this is this is from my side, and I would like to thank you all for your attention. Thank you very much.